This episode is sponsored by the Slang Self-Doubt Prayer Journal. Over the past 4 years, I have had the opportunity to help over 30 women identify, accept, and take action in the parts of their lives where they feel stuck. My heart's desire is to do that with every woman I come in contact with, but the truth is that's not realistic. So instead, I created a prayer journal that goes through that same journey. The Slang Self-Doubt Prayer Journal is designed for you to dig deep and answer questions that will pull out where you are stuck on your journey. The Slang Self-Doubt Prayer Journal consists of 6 sections of journal prompts and areas for reflections for when you want to dig a little deeper and just take your thoughts to another level. Whether it takes you 6 weeks or 6 months to complete, I promise you will not regret it. Head on over to my website at www.feliciawallace.com and select the Books tab to make your purchase. If you are ready to find your fears and slay them, go to www.feliciawallace.com, select Books, and get your copy today. You're listening to the Slang Self-Doubt Podcast with Coach Felicia, where we empower Black women to overcome their doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to give birth to their God-given purpose. Join me and sometimes some of my friends on our journey as we remind you that you are not alone. I'm Felicia Wallace, and together we will find our fears and slay them. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Slang Self-Doubt Podcast. It's your girl, Coach Felicia. Welcome to all the new and continued listeners. I don't care how you guys found me, whether it was by way of a guest episode, solo episode, you saw me on somebody else's podcast, maybe you saw me on Instagram. I just want to let you know that I am grateful that you are here. I hope that as you've been listening to the show, that something resonates with you. And if it does, I would love to hear about it. You can email me, you can DM me. I'd also love for you to be able to share it with one of your friends, share it for to at least about 5 people. And, then we can hit our goal this year because, y'all, this week we hit 36,000 downloads. Okay. The goal for 2021 was 50,000 downloads, and the goal still is 50,000 downloads. So come on, y'all. Like y'all are already showing me that you are listening, and I'm just asking, just keep sharing, keep passing it on, keep rating, keep reviewing, all of those things. Again, I mentioned before, all shirts are on sale on the website for $10. Limited sizes are available. I do not have anything over a large, y'all. So I got to get rid of this inventory in order to move on to the next thing. So get yourself a shirt. You can get one for your aunt. You can get one for your cousin, for your daughter, for your friend. It don't even matter. Save them for gifts, use them to work out. However you want to use it, it don't even matter, y'all. But the shirts are on sale for $10. Go ahead to the website and get it. Last thing, if you have not subscribed to the newsletter, please make sure that you go do that and subscribe now so that you can get content before everybody else does. First of all, you'll be the first to hear of anything that's happening, and we have some amazing things coming in 2022. So I want you to hear it first from me. So make sure you are connected in that way and join the newsletter. Also, I revamped it recently because the Lord told me to. And I'm giving you 3 ways to slay your week. And that's giving you a worship song, a sermon, and a scripture. And that doesn't get displayed anywhere else. It is only on the newsletter, and it's different every single week. And it's something that is special to me. So all 3 of them are things that are like genuine to me. It's stuff that I listen to, stuff that I watch, a scripture that I read and meditate on. So it is very personal. So it's not just like I'm just making stuff up. So make sure that you are subscribed to the newsletter so you can find your 3 ways to slay your week. Okay. I did an IG live this week with Angela Hicks from Angela Solutions. I will put the link in the show notes so you guys can watch the replay. It was really, really good. What I thought was very interesting for me is that a couple of years ago, I wouldn't even get on video. I felt some type of way. Y'all know my story about having Bell's palsy. And now I'm like, when people ask me, like, are you available to do a live? Or even myself, if I'm thinking about something, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a series and I'm going to do a live. I'm like excited about it now. And so I'm so grateful to be in that space because it doesn't scare me. Is it still a self-doubt? It really is, but I'm able to do it now where it is a desire, right? It is isn't so much of like, oh, I have to go because I need to put my face out there and I need to face my fears. Now it's like, man, I enjoy doing this. And so you guys are a witness to me literally slaying my self-doubt. It always in more ways than one, but this specifically, like you guys were the first to see me do it. That was back in 2020 with my very first live, and how I didn't even, and at that time, y'all didn't even know it was a struggle of mine. But now knowing that it is something that I am just like super grateful for. And in a place where I'm at peace with it. And so yeah, y'all gonna be saying a whole lot more of me. Okay, then. So we have been talking about how self-doubt can affect your faith over the last 4 weeks. And today is the final episode in this series. We discussed about what faith means, and what it can look like, how self-doubt can lead us to not trusting God and his plan for our lives. And then just last week, we talked about really understanding that God wants us close to him, and he wants to teach us to follow him. And don't be trying to run away or anything like that. He wants us close to him, and he don't want to force us to do anything, and for us to just like chill out, don't make it difficult, all of those things. And so this final episode is really finding a way to get us back on track when the self-doubt has stopped us, when the procrastination has set in, when fear has paralyzed us. This is how we get back on track. And initially I was going to talk about something else, and I had a different thing. And then after I did the live, God put on my heart at that moment, like, this is the final step in how self-doubt shows up in our fear and how we can correct it, right? I'm always like, I'm learning now that we have to take some actionable steps. Yes, I use this podcast to share my story, and yes, I use it to, give you all information, but also I want you to take some action as well, so that we can move forward, because we can talk all day. Like, clearly I do it often. So that's fine. But what are we doing to ensure that we are making a difference, that we are moving forward, that we are actually slaying our self-doubt? And so this is the way we slay the self-doubt when it comes to our faith. Okay. So the first step is three things, as always. The first step is it really is about the journal prompt. So let me put that out here. This is where I'm getting it from. So if you have not gotten a journal prompt, go to the website, get a journal prompt, go to my Instagram, get your journal prompts. Using the journal prompts, whether it's on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, this is how you reset. This is how we get back to a place of faith and trusting God with his plan, because we go back to him, right? So the very first thing is on the prompt says, the last thing God told me to do was, you have to get clarity about whatever that last thing was, right? Because I believe that God will not give you the next thing until you have done the last thing, right? Like, there's literally, sometimes he will, but for the most part, if you haven't completed the first assignment, why would he give you something else? I mean, when we think about things that we ask people to do, sometimes you can pile on stuff, but in other areas, if you ask somebody to do something and they still haven't done it, or they just continue not to do it, you end up thinking either they're incapable of doing it, they don't care about doing it, or you feel like you can't trust them to do it. So then you go ask somebody else, or you do it yourself, right? That's usually what it is. You'll go like do it yourself. And so I believe that the same thing happens with God. Like, he's not going to move us forward, especially within our purpose and what it is that he has for us, if it doesn't look like we're going to move. If it don't look like you're going to do a simple thing, and it's a lot of times, sometimes it's not even hard, right? Like, for me in the beginning of this journey, like, one of my very first assignments after God gave me the name Slaying Self-Doubt was, if you've been listening to this podcast or following me on social media for a while, and you're ready to start your journey to healing, or you're ready to confront your doubts and insecurities, there are 3 ways I can help. First, you can download the journal prompt from my website. Use this as a guide to get back on track with where God is calling you. Secondly, you can go to my website and purchase the Slaying Self-Doubt Prayer Journal. Using this prompt and journal will pull out where you are stuck on your journey. These questions will force you to dig deep and find your fears. Lastly, if you're ready to invest in your healing journey and work directly with me, book a 30-minute connection call with me today. This allows us to see if we are a good fit for each other. So head on over to my website, www.feliciawallace.com, to do one or all three of these. That's www.feliciawallace.com. Now, back to the show. Create an Instagram page, and I just need you to post for a whole year. And I was like, what? It seems simple enough, but in that space, I didn't know what I was supposed to be posting. What was it supposed to be about? But I was like, okay, it has to just be a post a day. I still was in my insecure phase. I still was in my struggling what slaying self-doubt was supposed to even look like. But I did it. I started the page. That's all I did. I started the page, and then I would just get pictures off of Pinterest or something on Google or whatever, and I would just repost or things that I saw and just repost. I did that for a year before there was a podcast, before there was coaching, before there was journals and a journal prompt and shirts and all this other stuff. It was just me posting other people's stuff, but I was still being obedient. Right. And then he was able to give me the next thing. That is a part of like working through stuff. And so, but there are times in this journey where I'm like, procrastination sets in, and I have like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Even back to the podcast, right? When I first started the podcast, I created an episode in July of 2018. We didn't I didn't publish the first episode until March. When procrastination set in, I really had to go back and I had to sit down and be like, what was the last thing that God told me to do? And really at that time, he just told me to record. I hadn't even done that. And that was like, by the time that like procrastination set in, and fear, I was paralyzed by fear as well. Even though it hadn't gone anywhere, I just recorded an episode. The next episode that I recorded was in December of 2018. So from July to December, I didn't do nothing out of my fear, out of my discomfort. And it was still a burden on my heart. I knew that I was going to have to publish this podcast. By this time, I had already told people that I was going to do it. That's what God told me to do. And I couldn't go any further. Like I couldn't even get the next thing because I hadn't even done the first thing. And the first thing was just record some episodes. And so then I recorded an episode in December. I still didn't do anything. Then I recorded, no, I did. I recorded the episode in January. I still didn't publish, right? And then, so you have like 6-7 months that goes by that could this podcast have started in 2018? It could have. I don't know. Maybe it started exactly when it was supposed to, which was March 3rd of 2019, but it could have started before that. I have no idea. But because I was in this space of procrastination and fear, I didn't do anything. But when that prompting came like real heavy on me, and it really was one time in small group, my members was like, when is this podcast coming? Like we're waiting. Wasn't it supposed to happen last year? And I was just like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and do it. And I had to go back and I was like, okay, God, what am I supposed to do next? That's usually our answer, or our question, right? Like we be like, what are we supposed to do next, God? What am I? Just show me my next steps. And I wouldn't see anything. And then I was just like, okay, what's the last thing that I was supposed to do? And he was like, record. And so I was just like, okay. So then I recorded another episode. And I was just like, okay. Once I kind of got the hang of it, then the next thing came was like, where's it supposed to go? Then stuff started to happen because I was like, okay, Leo, I'm again taking these action steps. Like, where am I going to host it? Where's it going to go? What do I need to sign up for? What do I, like, then I started moving in the direction. Mind you, I was recording and hadn't even created a hosting platform. I hadn't even created accounts in like Apple or Spotify or any of those things. I'm just over here like, nobody's going to listen. Well, clearly ain't nobody going to listen because it ain't even know where to begin with. But it wasn't until I was like, what's the last thing, that the next thing started to show up. And then I started moving in a forward direction, right? With that came the next thing that's on this journal prompt. Is the reason I did not complete the assignment is because I really had to do during that time some self-reflection for myself of like, what is it that is causing me not to do these things? And it was the understanding and the me telling the truth about myself and saying that I'm afraid nobody is going to listen to it. I don't like the sound of my voice. Maybe no one wants to listen to my story. Is there what if I'm doing this wrong? I don't know if this is the right setup. I don't know if I have the if it goes in the right way. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to start. I don't know what it's going to look like. Once I was clear about all those things, I actually felt better about the fact that I didn't know, because all of it was in my head, which was just creating more anxiety, more fear, more self-doubt, instead of me just kind of getting it out. And once I was honest with myself about the fact that I really am scared about this, and I really have this anxious feeling that it's not going to happen and nobody's going to listen to it. And, there's some things that I needed to do. Some of my fear had to do with the people that I'm connected to, right? And so a part of my self reflection was like, I need to get approval, or not, I guess approval. Yeah, approval. Or I needed to feel okay about it. I guess it's still approval, right? And so I had already, my husband knew I was going to do it. So I wanted to let him know, like, hey, there's some things that I may or may not share about our relationship, about how I feel. It's no indication on, my love for you or anything like that. But this is my journey. So I'm going to share certain things. I would always run it past you first, but I just wanted to let you know that this is what's going to happen. And he was like, okay. Then the next person was my mom. Like, I needed to be able to share, like, there may be some things that I say in this time that maybe you didn't know, maybe you were unaware of. It has nothing to do with your parenting style or anything like that. I just want you to know that this is how I perceived, whatever transpired. And this is like throughout the entire time. And the hardest, I would say the hardest two people were my dad and my oldest son's father. And the reason why is because with my dad, it's like, that's my dad. I'm a daddy's girl, right? And so I'm just like, Daddy, I just want to tell you. And, he was just like, cool. Like, my parents were like, do what you need to do. Like, this is your thing. Do that. With my oldest son's father, it was time had passed. And my thing was, is I did not want him thinking that I was dredging up anything. I didn't want him thinking that I was feeling something that I wasn't. And I also didn't be like, we're in a better place, right? And we're good. Our families are great. Like, there's no, but I needed to be clear that this has nothing to do with you. I'm not trying to disrespect you, bad mouth your name, because I'm clear. My kids may listen to these episodes. I don't know if they do now. They know I do it, but I don't ever want, my son or him to feel like I'm out here disrespecting him. And so my journey is my journey, and I have to tell it from my side. And once I was able, and he was like, okay, cool. And so once I was able to tell the people that I needed to share with what was getting ready to happen, I felt better about going on this thing. But had I not done the reflection of that, what was scaring me was them saying something, or my parents feeling some type of way, or me hurting my husband's feelings, or my son being hurt, or whatever the case may be. Like, I really wanted to make sure that everybody understood like how I was going about this, and I wanted to move in integrity, right? And so for me, that was important, but I would not have done that if I had not really dug into the reason why I wasn't even just recording. Nobody was listening to it at this time. But why wasn't I even recording? I was afraid of what they may hear. And if I had put it out, right? But you have to do that reflection and tell the truth about yourself so that you're able to move forward. Because again, this self-doubt is on us. So most people around you, they don't know what you're going through. They don't know what your fears are. But until you vocalize that for yourself, and maybe sometimes for other people, you're able to get the peace that you need to be able to move forward. And then the last thing on the journal prompt is the distractions I need to remove for the next 30 days are, I do 30 days just because you can put any period of time, for some 30 days is like a minimum, right? For some things we need to do a 90-day, removal of certain things. Like currently right now, I'm in people do January, a dry January where they're not partaking in any alcoholic beverages. And I was like, I knew before the new year started, I was doing 90 days. And I've told a couple of people, they're like 90 days. And I'm like, for me, it's the clarity that comes when I'm not indulging in something that's a distraction for me. That's a distraction for me because I end up going, I be tired, or I do that instead of, or, I just, I'd rather rather have a glass of wine. On top of the fact that in my journey into right now, just like getting my health together, it's not beneficial for that either. And so knowing that I needed to remove that, that doesn't mean the desire doesn't come to be like, oh, I can have a drink and watch my show. Got a lot of shows that's coming out. These Lifetime movies is banging. You want to have some popcorn and some wine. And it's just like, no, you're just going to drink your water. What's that? The joint going around now, drink my water and mind my business. That's what I'm doing right now, right? Um, but that is a big thing. You have to figure out what are the distractions that you need to remove. Sometimes it's social media. Sometimes, when I started this podcast, did you hear that ad at the beginning of the show? If you're a business owner looking to expand your reach, you can promote your company or product with a host read pre-roll or mid-roll ad by me on the Slang Self-Doubt podcast. If you want more information, email info@FeliciaWallace.com. That's info@FeliciaWallace.com. Now, back to the show. Even though God told me to do social media and post every day, I had to remove it for a minute. And when I say remove it, I didn't deactivate my account or anything like that. I started putting timers on it, because then I started getting wrapped up in the fact that I literally was, at the same time the Slaying Self-Doubt launched, like 5 other people that I know and know of launched their podcast at the same time. And I was just watching things like blow up, right? And I was like, what in the crap? Like, immediately comparison started to come in. Immediately it was like, am I going to be able to, is this going to work the way, like, am I going to get the same thing? And on top of that, when it was happening, I would post the episode and then they'd be like, yeah, I got, I got 100,000 downloads in 1 week. And I'd be like, wow, yeah, I got 100. And so because it was starting to mess me up, I knew that I still had to maintain the last assignment, which was to post every day, because how else do you get people to know that you have a podcast? I didn't have all the other things. I didn't have a newsletter and all this other stuff. It literally was just Instagram and, my personal Facebook account or whatever have you. Like, that is where I started. And so I just did it. But what I did was, it was like, okay, Bun, you're going to post for today and then you're going to go about your business. And I had to remove that distraction. The other distraction that I had to remove for a period of time was just, it was more about me, right? Like, it was more about like, okay, when this self-doubt comes up, when this fear comes up, when this procrastination comes up, what are you going to do to kind of move past it? I was aware enough that it was happening, but at this point it was like, okay, you have people that are listening. At that point, like, I started having people call me and be like, oh my God, I love the episode. Like, I listen to it every Monday on my way to work and this and that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like, people are listening to, and so it was really like, one of the distractions was me. Like, my negative self-talk was getting me all wrapped up. And so I had to be like, no, people are listening. When I would immediately say, ain't nobody gonna listen to this. Yes, people are listening, and you record another episode. Let's keep going. Let's keep doing the next thing. And, I'm grateful that I went through this process, because here we are, right? Am I where I am exactly where I'm supposed to be? Because the impact and the way this podcast is going now, it isn't how I expected it. I did not know exactly what God was trying to do. I did not know what he wanted. I thought it was like, I'm just going to tell my story. I'm going to tell people how I be struggling and tell people that, I'm just a wreck and all this other stuff. And, hope people going to listen. And then in turn, God was like, no, you're going to teach people how to do the thing that I'm walking you through. And you're going to use what I gave you to let other women come and share their stories. It's about to be February. Well, it's February. I know this episode is airing at the end of January, but it's basically February, right? And March is Women's History Month. And for the last 2 years, I have been able to highlight 30 women that I have been on this show. I've interviewed more than that, but that's 60 people that God put me, like, intentionally connected me with through this podcast for whatever reason that he has. Like, that is 60, which means this year will be 90. There is no way I could have ever imagined that that was going to be a part of this journey. Not there's nobody, literally, I could have never imagined that. I could have never imagined the impact this slaying self-doubt would have. The fact that people are like, when I pitched them to be on the show, that they're like, oh my God, I'm so excited and I'm honored to be here. And I'm like, you want to be here? Because I was nervous about asking you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. But had I let that fear and that self-doubt stop me in my tracks and not go any further, and I didn't do these three things, I would not even be here. And so I just want to encourage you that if self-doubt is, affecting your faith right now, these are some, get this journal prompt, make as many copies as you need, and start at just doing it every 30 days and really figure out, like, what is the last thing that you're supposed to do? The first, like, again, first thing you're supposed to do is get clarity. What was your last assignment from God? If you don't remember or you were unsure, go back to God and find out. Go back to him and ask, like, what you asked me to do again? You know how you tell your kids to do something, they start doing something else, and then you be like, did you do what I said? What you say again? It's the same thing. We get distracted and we move on, and then we forget. Okay, we'll go back to the source and find out, what are you supposed to be doing? The second thing is self-reflection. You have to tell the truth about yourself. Why didn't you do the last thing that God told you to do? And be truthful, even if it's because I ain't want to. Okay, cool. That's fine. Well, now we got to dig a little deeper into that. why you ain't want to? What do you want? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to tell the truth about it so you can be real with yourself and be real with him. And then the last thing is to remove distractions. Whatever the distractions you need to remove for a period of time, what are they? Again, tell the truth. If it's people, remove the people. Do not disturb. Put them on silent. If it's substances, if it's a wine, alcohol, whatever it is, then you stop for a period of time if that is the distraction for you. If it's TV, remove the distraction. If it's social media, remove the distraction. If it's you, figure out a way about whatever it is about you. If it's your negative self-talk, figure out a way to, I don't want to say reverse it, but figure out a way that why that is happening, and then get the help that you need. I tell y'all all the time, Jesus and therapy, right? If a part of it is your past and what is coming up for you and the fears that you have, and the negative self-talk is overwhelming, go see a therapist. If you are serious about living out your life in purpose and doing more, I know that there's so many women who listen to this and they are sitting at their jobs. Well, not at you might be sitting at your job or you're at your work computer on a meeting something, and you be like, God, I know that there's more for me. There is more for me than just this. This cannot be all that is for me. This cannot be the reason why you saved me. This cannot be the reason why I'm still here and she's not. This can't be it. If you know that that's you, this is the time for you to find out what is keeping you from that. And again, you do this if you can't do it by yourself and just with you and God, because to be honest, some people can't. Like, it's not even anything to be ashamed about. Like, am I grateful that I was able to do it with God and I was okay with doing it? Did I have some help along the way? Some of the help were my friends. Some of the help was my village. Some of the help was my husband being able to share these things. Some of the help was my small group, sharing some of these things with people. When it got too heavy and it got to a point where I was like, I know the calling on my life is bigger than this, and I need to figure out why I am my own distraction, I reached out to a therapist to figure out what's wrong with me, but what things about me that God put in me that in real life he's using because he's using my insecurities. He's using my anxiety. He's using my fear in slaying self-doubt. But how do I control it that it does so that it does not control me? I had to get the help that I needed. I've had a coach to figure out what steps do I need to take. I told y'all before, I had a coach when I left my job. How do I figure out to do this in the right way? Because I love the people that I work with. I did not want to leave them. I knew that was a job I prayed for. That was a job I prayed to stay in. And now he's taking me out of it and I need them to be okay. And he walked me through that too. And I had the help of a coach to get me through that. And I have a help of a coach now to get me through this season. We're not meant to do life by ourselves. And so if that is something that you are struggling with and you feel like I'm ready, but I can't do it by myself, I just told you, you can either get with a coach, you can reach out to me. I will definitely, we can you can book a connection call and we can definitely talk to see if it's something that I can do to help. If it ain't my ministry, I will gladly refer you to somebody else. I don't have no, there's no qualms about that. Like I will gladly refer you to somebody else. You can go to my website. There's a resource page for, links for you to be able to find a therapist, find somebody that suits you and that you'll like you choose. Like, and if it doesn't work, then pick somebody else. Like, don't feel like you got to be forced into something or in a relationship with a therapist and it's not going to work. If it don't work, then you pick somebody else. But if you need the help, go get the help. Period. So, I know that once we got to this end, it got a little bit heavy, but I just felt that on my heart and I needed to be able to say that. So as always, y'all, thank you for rocking with me. Thank you for continuing to listen. Remember to share, rate, and review on Apple. You can listen anywhere, but if you're listening on Apple, please make sure that you rate and review. If you're not following me on Instagram, you're tripping, but go ahead, slaying self-doubt. If you aren't doing it, make sure you subscribe to the newsletter so you can get the 3 ways to slay your week. And until next week, see ya. All right, y'all, that's all for this week. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review. Remember to head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow me at Slaying Self-Doubt. Oh, wait, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel and watch this episode, and remember to press the subscribe button. Until next week, see ya.